This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Recorded show for this week. It is actually the 1st of July, which means that it's my mom's birthday. So I'm not headed up to Lake St. Clair until next week. Practice actually starts on the 6th of Saturday for that Bassmaster Open. Excited. I've had decent success on smallmouth bass fisheries, 2 for 2 on checks on the St. Lawrence River, but Lake St. Clair is a totally different animal. The Elite Series has been there. Major League Fishing has been there. It's a standard stop for both of those organizations over the past part. Actually, fun story. The very first tournament that I ever covered would have been in I believe it was 2008. And the very first tournament that I ever covered for Mark Jeffries in the Bass Zone, I was just graduated from the University of Oklahoma. I had gone full-time with Mark Jeffries. And he said, hey, I'm going to send you to the FLW Tour season, and you're going to cover all of these stops. You're going to go on the water. You're going to do midday reports, pregame, postgame shows. I'm going to stay in the studio. So there I was at 20. I think I was 22, 23 at the time because I didn't go to Utah. I was 21. And so up I went to Detroit, Michigan to cover the first tournament on Lake St. Clair. And at the time, BTL was sponsored by Jasper Engines and Transmissions. And Chad Morgenthaler, who has since retired and now runs a youth fishing academy on Table Rock, along with Dave Mansu and Brian Snowden and a couple other anglers there, was a Jasper angler. So Mark said, hey, day one, go get some good photos of Chad Morgenthaler. Well, Chad takes out right there and he heads to Lake Erie, out to the islands. And I didn't know any better. He said, yeah, I'm going out to Erie. Feel free to come out and shoot some photos. And FLW provided a camera boat. So I had a dude with a brand new big giant Ranger on it. So we hop in the boat and it's blowing maybe 15 to 20 right into the Detroit River. And I didn't think anything of it. So at the time I told him, yeah, we're going to run 30 miles from Lake St. Clair through the Miracle Mile, through the Detroit River, out into Lake Erie, and then we're going to shoot some photos of this guy. Well, we get to the mouth, and it's like 4 and 5 footers. And it's probably the most scared I had ever been covering a tournament. First tournament covering. First of all, I didn't have a room either. And I got there, so I was in Detroit with no room. Then I got on the water and decided the first thing I wanted to do was go cover a guy who was out in the middle of Lake Erie. Needless to say, we turned around. We ate about 7 waves. I called Mark and said, hey, this is not going to happen. So that was my introduction to covering the professional bass fishing scene. So hopefully it will go smoother than that at the Open next week up at Lake St. Clair. But today we have a recurrent guest. He's been on the show before. He's actually on the show for the first time a couple years ago, and I think he was in his like hunting cabin or lodge that he'd bought because he came onto the scene rapidly. Dakota Ebare, fish around out of Texas. I think he went to school down there in Stephenville, but crazy last couple of years on the BPT for Dakota Ebare and the MLF invitationals. And then going into the 2024 season, Dakota was one of the anglers who opted to fish the invitationals and then jump into all 9 of the Bassmaster Open EQs. And so far it's gone pretty well. He's in the top 5 in the points after 5 events, 31st on Okeechobee, 13th on Washita, 4th on Santee Cooper, 42nd on Logan Martin, and 24th on Lake Eufaula. So he's driving. He's headed up to Michigan or the Indiana border for the 4th of July celebration. So we're going to try to get him on the line with this. I know he's having a couple minor issues with his connectivity, but on the flip side, we're also going to talk about his 46th place finish last week on Lake Eufaula. I had 20 pounds, 10 ounces. He had 20 pounds, 13 ounces. And one of the things that we're doing with Strike King, we had Tristan McCormick on for the last 2 opens, was kind of do a little bit of an open breakdown. So we will bring Dakota in, and hopefully we'll be able to keep the signal for how it is. But Dakota, thanks for joining it. On the road again, fishing. You fished the first 4 of the invitationals. You're 5 tournaments into the Bassmaster Open EQs, 9 tournaments on the season, but a lot left on the docket heading into the second half, I guess, of the 2024 season.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's been a long year, a lot of tournaments, a lot of miles traveled. We're traveling a few more, but we're headed to the fun part of the season, man, up north, and I'm really looking forward to
that. Talk a little bit about the first 5 stops and then your decision. I know you did some podcasts. You talked to some people about your decision to kind of leave the BPT. You still stayed and fished the first 4 invitationals until you had some conflict, but to jump into the Bassmaster Open EQs after such a productive career. It was a career on the BPT, and I know you still had kind of heavy hitters and Red Crest on that, but scared, excited, what was your kind of emotions heading into the 2024 EQ season, leaving literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table over the past couple of years with the BPT?
Yeah, man, a lot of mixed emotions going into that decision. It was definitely the biggest decision I've probably made yet this far in my career. I worked really hard to get there, but I just truly felt led that this was the decision that I needed to make, and it was the right time to do that. That's just truthfully, without getting too spiritual about it, that's just the way it is, man. I've always kind of felt that you should trust your intuition and what you feel like you're being led to do, and so that's what I did. And here we are, and it's working out, and I'm very thankful for that. But we still got a lot of fishing left. But yeah, the first day at Okeechobee, whenever I was in last place after day 1 of the Bassmaster Opens 2024, I was going, okay, I'm gonna trust the plan here, but this doesn't look pretty. But thankfully, we were able to rebound. It's been a great season. It hasn't been easy by any means. It's had its shares of ups and downs and trials and tribulations along the way. There's no doubt about that. But it's been a lot of fun. And the best thing about it is I can feel myself becoming a better angler, really having to dig deep, competing against all those great guys that fish in the opens. I mean, the competition is second to none in those opens, and having just that sheer amount of boats on the water, some pretty tough fisheries. It's made me a better angler and a better person, and I think that's the most important thing.
It's just a slight exaggeration. You're in 127th after day 1 on Okeechobee. You had 8 pounds, 15 ounces. You can actually go to Strike King Lou's YouTube channel and kind of watch how all that went down. You had the Kings of Bass, that crew, like following you around. It had to be a lot of stress. But dude, I kind of read off before I brought you in some of your finishes, and it seems like you have had such a knack of having a really good day in the opens this year that kind of counteracted an average day. And when there's so many points that are separated in a 200 boat field by so little, like, dude, I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the standings and been like, ooh, Dakota's got to catch him. And then the next day, boom, you always catch him when you have to. And that is like a talent that you can't teach. That's just coming through in the clutch. Do you kind of feel that way too? Have you felt the pressure this year going into day 2 a number of times?
I have felt some pressure, I mean, I hate that I keep putting myself in those kind of situations. But I think the way that I practice, and the way that I kind of prepare, that 5 days of practice is kind of thrown a loop. It's just too much. And I get, I think I actually would do a lot better with a day and a half, but I don't want to be outworked by anybody. So I'm not going to allow myself to be outworked by anybody. So I was pretty well the first one on the boat ramp every day at Eufaula and the last dummy to leave. And I set dummy because I felt pretty dumb sometimes at dark coming in. There was nobody there, and I'm like, there's a reason why nobody's here. But because I mean, you know, you can only learn so much in that amount of time, really. But yeah, I tell people all the time, you know, being able to salvage the day is very important. It was kind of described to me when I was younger, was like learning how to have that professional day. Like that's the term that was used whenever it was first described to me. Like figuring out a way to, you know, and everything else goes wrong, you figure out a way to finish 80th and not, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what saves your whole season. And there's a fine line there because I'm not a guy that's going to go fish conservatively either, you know. So it's really not. It's not safe to say that that's my game plan going into any of these. Like even whenever I'm in 75th place after day one at Eufaula, I'm still figuring out how I can make the top 10 in my head. But you know, I mean, I don't know what it just comes down to decision making, you know, and that's all there is to it. Knowing that, hey, look, everybody else is struggling. It's a tough tournament. Let's go do the best we can, and we'll be fine. I think the mental side of things is what really takes over in those tough grinder tournaments.
It is. It's a very interesting heading in with 4 events left. It's a very interesting top 20 in the Open EQs. It's not like last year where you had 10 anglers or 15 anglers that were just blowing everybody away. You've got some ups and downs. You've got some 22-year-olds that are mixed in there, some 20-year-olds with Tucker Smith and Easton Fothergill. You have some anglers that haven't fished on either professional tour, but then, you know, you've got you in there. You got Andrew Loberg. You have Josh Butler and Brandon McMillan, guys who have been close before, like with Kyle Austin. Yeah, Cody Myers in there. I mean, it's a very eclectic list going into the Final Four. But are you a points watcher guy? Like, do you look at like where you moved up to or where you dropped? You're second right now, or are you a guy who just goes out and does what you think you need to do to catch the most weight? I know there's two drastically different camps of professional anglers as far as point watchers and non-point watchers.
I don't let it really affect me as far as like decision making at this point in the game. I just go out there and try to do the best I can, but I am paying attention to it somewhat, but not to the point where I feel like it could negatively affect me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go and fish differently on day 2 because I feel like I need a certain way to stay at a certain. I'm just not going to do that, man. I'm going to fish to try to win every one of these tournaments. I really want to be at the Classic in Fort Worth next year. I've got so many friends and family within driving distance of that tournament, and I just would love to represent them at that event. It would mean the world to them, to my family, cool. and to my sponsors and to myself. So, man, I mean, I've just got a lot of history in that town and that area, and I love it, and I want to be there so bad. So I don't care what the points are. I'm setting my sights on trying to win every one of these events that are coming up, or have an opportunity to win at least one of these events coming up and getting to that Classic. But I will say that my main goal for this year, especially at this point, is to win Angler of the Year. I'm not really focused on anything other than trying to win Angler of the Year. Like that is, and go to the Classic. But I'm close enough that I just feel like if I do my job, I can have an opportunity. Easton's definitely going to catch him up north. But that's just the way I look at it. It's the same approach that I take to a tournament, right? If I'm shooting to win that event and I ended up 10th, well, you know, I had a pretty good event. If I'm shooting to win AOI and I end up 9th at the end of it, I'm not going to be totally mad. I'm going to be a little mad, but I'm not going to be, the goal will be accomplished of qualifying for the elites, which is at the end of the day, as important as AOI is to me, qualifying for the elites would probably be very, important for my career at this point because I'm just glad nobody's jumped ship on me yet. Now, and I have a great relationship with the companies I work with. They've been very understanding of me and making these decisions and stuff. But I'm so thankful, and it goes to show what kind of companies I am working for and working with, and I'm so thankful for that because they've understood this transitional period for me, and they believed in me as a brand, and they're sticking with me. So I'm so thankful for that. I can't say that enough.
chief among them would be Strike King and Lose, and they're running, like I said, the Kings of Bass series where they're following you and Tristan McCormick on all of the stops, which I would imagine would have to be a little bit stressful to have that. They actually kind of are alternating. They followed you at Neely Henry. I'll throw that screen up. But I mean, they've put a lot of money, a lot of resources, and a lot of time behind this to kind of show how things go down behind the scenes. What is that like, having had the camera crew with you? I mean, you've been on TV, you fish for the hundreds of thousands of dollars, you've had a camera in your boat a lot, but is there a little bit extra pressure that you feel with this series, with as much as they're pouring in at the open level to kind of document you and McCormick as you try to make that Elite Series a reality?
Pressure, fishing, I started fishing on tour in 19, and even the college stuff really kind of helped prepare me for stuff like this. It's all part of the job. And I love working with those guys. The Kings of Bass crew, or the production crew for Strike King and Lose in general, for Rather Outdoors, they're second to none. I've had so much fun working with them, really become friends with a lot of those guys. And they make it easy. I mean, they make you look good. They make me look good. And they do a very good job at it, even whenever I'm not necessarily making myself look good out there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're awesome to work with. And it's exciting because I realize how big of an opportunity it is for me to share with you guys this journey, because I hope that somewhere down the road at the end of this, however it shakes out, them covering this journey on Kings of Bass with me and Tristan can have a positive impact on somebody somewhere down the road, whether it be a high school angler that dreams of fishing professionally one day, or a college kid, or so, man, who knows? But them capturing this journey, I know, is a special opportunity. And so I've been, is it a job? Is it part of the job? Yes. Does it require a little bit extra effort and time and management, trying to do all my tackle and make sure we get all our interviews in and stuff like that? Yeah, it does. But that crew really understands what it takes to be successful at this level, and they do a daggum good job of just kind of being a fly on the wall and letting us do our thing. So it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody following along.
What do you credit your such insane consistency and top 10 finishes to over the last 4 years? I mean, you fished the Toyota Series since 2017, and you've always been a very consistent angler. But like, dude, over the last 3 years, like, you just don't miss.
Hey, come on, man. It's rolling good. Don't
as a whole,
too much,
I just mean as a whole, Dakota. I ain't trying to, you know what I'm saying. I mean, dude, you're fishing against the top on the BPT, the top in the Opens, the top in the Invitationals, and you're doing it across the country a number of different ways.
Man, I'll be honest. I kind of have this conversation quite often with people, and I don't know that I always give them the answer that they really were expecting, because I wish I had some dialed in answer about how all the stars have aligned to give you the opportunity to do this. But man, ever since I was a little kid, I mean, my mom, has videos of me running around in diapers and stuff with a fishing pole in my hand. I mean, I've always just loved being outdoors. I've loved hunting. I've loved fishing. And whenever I got the slightest hint of a possibility that I may be able to do it for a living and do it all the time, and then be in a deer stand from October to January, man, that's all I needed. And so what I can say is I attribute a lot of that consistency and success. One, I'm going to give all the glory to the man upstairs, because he's, really blessed me in a lot of situations where I didn't think I would pull through. But as far as on my end, just a lot of hard work, man, a lot of days on the water, and a lot of events fished. And I mean, I've truly just kind of dedicated my life to this over the last, since 2017, and that's come at a price tag. I mean, I'm still single. I don't, there's been a lot of times I've spent on the road when I could have been home doing other things and that aspect, but I've really just dedicated myself to trying to be as successful as I possibly can in this industry and spend as much time as I possibly can to be the best angler that I possibly can. And I think just time on the water, man. Like, and it's kind of just happened naturally for me. Like, it's not, I don't think a kid can go watch YouTube videos every day, all day, and like become Jacob Wheeler. Like, I think that it's awesome to have those resources out there. But whenever I was a kid, like, I just think back when I was 11 years old. You know, I was playing baseball since I got done with baseball. I was going fishing, and that's how I got good at it. I was just doing it because I loved it and I enjoyed it. But now the conversation I have with the parents of 11-year-olds is, how does my son become a professional angler? How do they get sponsors? And I'm like, he's 11. You know, like, let him just go fishing and have fun. You know, and if he inevitably loves it enough, there's enough opportunities now in the sport with high school fishing and college fishing and all the other feeder trails that lead up to being a professional, that there's opportunities out there for a guy that really loves it, that really applies himself, to go make a living doing it. And so I feel like it just has to kind of happen naturally, man. If you get, you got to just work your absolute tail off and let it just happen, And so that's kind of where it's at with that. I mean, I don't think there's just a perfect algorithm or anything for success in the sport. Everybody walks in a different set of shoes. We all have a different paths in life. Some of them happen faster than others. And, it just is what it is. Just like anything else in life,
Yeah, that's fair. So you talk about being all in. I think this is you. Is this you? I mean, don't look. I know you're driving. But is that you there making that dude's hung up in his bull rope, and that's you making
jump on him. Yeah, I had to jump on him right here to make it.
That's you right there.
That was me.
So you were
you're down there. Homework, man. You did some digging. This is a good
you know what? You know how I've done. Dude,
I love that save. I remember that vividly. The kid that's on that bull, his name's Ty Wainwright. He's now rodeoing for a living, going to pro rodeos.
Wait,
stuff.
Which one? This one or this one?
No. The other kid, the other one.
This one.
Yes, his name's Ty Wainwright. That was
he
didn't get touched. That was in Greenville Springs, Louisiana. I remember that vividly. Making that little pass there and that save. And I love that so much. Gosh dang, I love that stuff.
So you're the bullfighter right there in the hat with the red shirt or the striped shirt for what's going on. So he gets explained. He gets tossed right out of the gate, and that bull comes after him, and it's your job to make sure that he doesn't get trampled.
Yeah. Yep. That was me that went in between him and that bull's head. And if you watch that bull, instead of going to him, he picked up on me, and so I'm aware of the surroundings, so I was able to draw him away from that rider that was trying to get to his feet and go on. That's actually Ty again right there. I saved.
Is that you right here?
Actually,
this is you. Like
that's me. That's on the left. On the left side of the bull. Yeah, he's crawling away, and I'm getting the bull to come to me.
So I talk about all in. Yep. So like in order to
shared
Go ahead.
Oh, this is in Cody, Wyoming. No, this is in Cody, Wyoming. I actually got this bull hooked me through the fence. Like he got on top of me, was mashing me, and the only way I could get out from underneath him was go under the fence.
Okay.
I remember that.
I see. That's Wyoming. You down there getting smoked. Oh man, he's rolling you. And then you just bailed and he's me. Looking for more.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
that was me. Not a final moment there.
I'm showing all this stuff because, in order to do this, and ironically, Jay Brainerd used to fish the Elite Series. He's now, I believe, still a guide on the White River for trout. He is a bullfighter. But in order to do this, you have to be all in. You have to understand what all in, utmost confidence and decision making is, and trust and belief in yourself. I mean, you don't do that if you don't. Do you think that's kind of translated to fishing a little bit, and your whole going to a rodeo college and being around these things and being all in on this has just translated to fishing?
Without a doubt, man. It's that cowboy rodeo mentality. It kills me not being around that stuff anymore, but I've always kept that mentality of just, working hard and believing in yourself and trusting the process and just being kind of gritty at times. That's where I think that cowboy mentality comes into play whenever you're at Eufaula, Oklahoma, and the fishing is actually really tough, and you've got to, that was not a good one right there. That was rough. That one.
Ooh, as we show the pictures there. Oh, I think we finally hit a bad cell service. We've been running so good for 26 minutes.
Has been very important.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff. Is it easier to make a living, in your opinion, in rodeo or in bass fishing, or are both of them a crapshoot? It seems very similar. Like, as far as the top guys make it, there's a bunch of dedicated guys who kind of make it, but like as a whole, it's like really tough.
Rodeo and fishing are very similar in a way. You nailed it best. There's guys that really go all in and that have some talent and they make it, and a lot of guys, they struggle to really make a living doing it. But I would say they're very similar. I compare fishing to like more of a calf roper than a rough stock guy. You take a calf roper, for example, he's got a really expensive horse. We've got a really expensive boat. They spend a ton on fuel. We spend a ton on fuel. They spend a bunch on entry fees and vet bills and all that stuff. And it's more of an individual kind of deal. And I kind of use that analogy a little bit. But, at the end of the day, though, what's interesting about that, all that is that they are very similar in the sense that, man, it's something anybody and everybody can go enjoy. Whether or not we're not all going to be tough Coopers. And that's just the reality of it. We're not all going to be JB Moonies. And that's just the reality of it. And I'm glad you brought that up because,
Oh, stay with us with the signal here. We're about to get into some. Yep.
I failed at rodeo in a sense, which.
Oh, we lost him. All right. I think he's going to be back here in a second. Actually, I like that train of thought that he was going on. So we're going to take our first break of the show. And when we come back, we'll see if we can get him dialed back in because I'd be interested to hear what Dakota has to say about that. It's BTL on a Monday, July 1st. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Gamakatsu, the innovation leader in fish hooks, is launching Nano Alpha technology in 2024. Nano Alpha is a new finish available on Gamakatsu's most popular hook styles. It delivers 2 times slicker performance, 4 times better corrosion resistance. Nano Alpha technology makes the world's greatest fish hooks even better in 2024 to help anglers catch more fish.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
All right, we're back with Dakota Ebare. You're about to finish I feel like a very poignant thought about the comparisons between like rodeo and bass fishing.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like a lot of times even in fishing, it gets gritty, it gets tough, and you got to cowboy up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the first day at Eufaula, I break off a big one, and man, I hit her with a jig and she's running. I see her. She's a, 5-pounder or so, like big white flash. And she runs right between two rocks and cuts my line. And it's like, you want to lose everything. You want to like lose your mind over that, but you can't. Like you just got to keep going, And so like, it's just learning how to keep cool in those situations, and learning how to just manage your mind. And I think my time rodeoing did kind of help me with that, but I mean, I think, like I said, when it comes down to it, it's just about being mentally tough. And to be a rodeo cowboy, you've got to be very mentally tough. And the same thing being a professional fisherman, without a doubt.
Do you think there's a big population of anglers who have the talent and the knowledge to succeed at the highest level and just don't have the mental makeup?
Yes. Yeah, I think so, because I see guys that I know are just as good a fisherman as me. Like, I know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know they have just as good of talent, like physically. They can cast better than me. They can, do certain things. But when it comes down to it, I don't understand why some guys don't have success and some guys do. Like, I watch some guys fish, and there's certain guys that are like really successful that you could tell, like, maybe they don't cast the best, they don't do this, but they make good decisions. Like, they're smart. Like, when you have a conversation with them, they're very intelligent. I think all good anglers have that in common, is that they're very smart in their own way of like calculating and understanding and reading it, like the environment around them, and making good decisions based off of that, not based off of emotion, not based off of past history, not based off of what Billy Joe said was going to be going on at St. Clair in 3 weeks. Like, they're just fishing, man.
Yeah.
I think that guys are good fishermen. A lot of good fishermen are good outdoorsmen. I think that's, and like a lot of my time, we talk about the comparison between rodeoing and fishing, and there is a lot, hard work being the number one thing. But you talk about deer hunting. Like, I spend pretty much all fall in the woods. Like, I hunt way more than I should, truthfully. But when I'm in the deer stand, when I'm going to a new track of public land that I've never been to before, I'm going to have the same approach going to that track of public land as I would have going to, Leech, or I'm going to have when I go to Leech Lake here in a few weeks. I've never fished a tournament on Leech. And I'm going to go in there with an open mind and break it down and pay attention to what's going on. Same thing I'm going to do with a public tract of land when I'm going deer hunting, So I think there's a lot of similarities between that too, just learning how to like operate off your instincts, I think is very important.
Is this the house? I think the first time I ever had you on BTL, you had just like bought a piece of hunting property or had a barn on it or something. You had like a major tournament and you were like, yeah, I'm filling this thing out. Is that the same place? Like,
no, not hardly.
Oh, okay.
No, that was a good buddy of mine, Mitch.
Okay.
That's his barn. That's his barn and batting cage that I was staying in.
So those weren't even your deer that I was showing.
No,
those were Mitch's deer. I thought I was showing your deer and your castle that you bought on your tournament earnings, and I showed off Mitch's deer and Mitch's barn. My bad.
No, you did. That other episode we did was at my house, and those were my deer. But those are giants from the Midwest and all over the place that Mitch has killed. I was staying at his house during the Open at that clip is from the Open at Neely Henry, and I was staying in his batting cage. That's his batting cage, by the way, that I was staying in. He retired from playing pro ball. He won a World Series with the Red Sox, and now his kids are really big into baseball and stuff, and they have a really nice place there, and they were kind enough to let me stay. And anyways, that's all his deer.
Okay.
So I stole some glory from that, but shout out to him for letting me stay there, by the way.
That's a badass place.
It made great
dude. That was a badass place.
It's so badass. And then they have like a freaking, so they have like, he's got, and then right outside of that, it's the Stock Lake that is full of big bass, and him and his kids go fishing all the time. Here this guy is, got this beautiful place. He buys a $300 Skeeter bass boat. $300 now, like a 20-foot Skeeter that out of some off of, I don't know where, I found on Craigslist or something. Didn't have a motor or anything on it, and he floats around in this pond fishing out of a $300 bass boat. So
Hell yeah.
Which brings me to my next kind of what I was touching on, man. Like, whether you're rodeoing or you're fishing or you're hunting or whatever, just enjoy the crap, man. Like, we're getting so, like, there's so much, like, negativity in the sport and everything. I'm just like, man, I wish people would just go fishing and have fun and do it. And here you have this guy that has accomplished as much as anybody could accomplish in the sport of baseball, and he's fishing out of a $300 skeeter and loving it with his kids. And that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it's really all about. And so I like to kind of touch on that whenever I can. Man, people just go have fishing and go have fun, you know, and everything's good.
Would you not say, though, through the first 5 opens, it's been like a really positive open? I mean, yeah, there's been a little dust up here or there, but as a whole, like a very well-run, positive, open season this far with the anglers and who's catching them on and off the water, like the whole 9 yards. Like I've been super happy with the open EQ so far in 24 and the way Hank and the Bass is running them.
I have, man. I've been very impressed with the feel of the tournaments from day one at Okeechobee when we sat in that meeting. I felt like, you know, it was going to be pretty black and white, and this is what it is. And, you know, here's your opportunity, boys. Go get it, and we're going to do our job, and y'all do y'all's. And that's I do have a lot of respect for that. It seems like it's had a great feel to it. But I'll also say this too. I learned, if I took away from anything from my experience, you know, over the last several years, it's, man, I've worked really hard on, even if there was stuff going on, I wouldn't know about it for the most part. Mm-hmm. I'm focusing on, you know, getting back to reason why I started doing it in the first place, really enjoying the sport. I love fishing. I sat around all fall just contemplating on what I was going to do. And I've come to the terms that, man, I was actually at the Toyota Series Championship on Table Rock, and it really hit me, man. We just took off, and it was just such a beautiful morning. And I sat there and talked with Mark McQuall, the tournament director, for a while. You know, he's just a great guy. And I was looking at just different people in the industry that were around, and I'm like, man, I love this sport. Like, I love this sport. Regardless of everything else, like, I love bass fishing and the sport of bass fishing. And so I've really, like, got back to the point where I got my blinders on. I'm going to love bass fishing. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to do the best I can in my sport, in my space, in my place. And that's it. I'm not going to get too involved on anything else going on, you know, whether it's rule changes or this or that or format or what, I don't care. Just whatever the rules are, I'm going to do my best to follow them. I'm going to try to do my best in the format that we're in, and we're going to go, we're going. That's it.
I like it. All right, let's talk Eufaula. I got a lot of Oklahoma listeners. I'm based out of Eufaula. I've spent 100 days on Lake Eufaula in the past. I would be interested in kind of your game plan. Did you pre-practice that thing? Did you have any preconceived notions? And I mean, just a true grinder tournament where 10 pounds a day did you a world of good if you're in it for the points. Just kind of take it from here as far as your thoughts on that fishery and how it broke down.
Yeah, you know, I actually had a lot of fun there. I had what I feel like was a really good practice and had a really good tournament. I just didn't have things had a couple things go wrong. You know, I know you mentioned my co-angler was talking about a couple big ones that I lost on the second day. I break off a big one on the first day. That was just a freak accident. The fish just happened to run through some rocks and cut my line. But I was really excited about the event going into it. I like fishing Oklahoma. I like fishing in the dirt, like fishing super shallow whenever I get the opportunity to. I'll live scope them with anybody out there. I don't care. But I also really like catching them in the dirt. And I've always had a lot of fun in Oklahoma doing that. And so whenever I saw the water was high, I did a lot of calculations while we're there. I'm like, yeah, there's going to be enough water, I think, still on some hard cover for there still to be a deep. The water coming down created a current scenario in a lot of different areas. So in practice, I really didn't spend a lot of time around the bushes and willows because I knew that may or may not play. I found a couple stretches that I liked, and that if water stayed on them, I think they would be good. But then I mainly focused on current areas. There were little small gravel points, very subtle points. You might be just going down a line of bushes, and all of a sudden there would be just a notch out in the bushes, and in front of that would be a gravel point. And on just about every daggum one of them that I found in practice had a school of fish on them. It was actually really fun. I mean, I was throwing a 2.5 square bill from Strike King up there, and I was catching doubles at like a couple times a day. Like they were little, but every once in a while you catch a nice, every once in a while you catch a nice keeper. But there were tons of fish up there on these really shallow gravel points, and I was able to duplicate that kind of all over the lake, especially the south end of the lake, like down towards like Gaines Creek in that area. And so I was really excited about the tournament going in. Oh, and I also had got on a pretty good topwater bite. So like,
you found a topwater bite?
Oh, it's phenomenal until 7:15.
No kid.
Phenomenal.
In the clear water or in the dirty stuff?
It didn't matter, but dirty was where I was throwing it mostly. I'm not
like a spook or a buzz bait or.
It's not a sponsor bait, but man, you could throw a plopper down freaking down the right little banks from. If you could start fishing at 5:30 and fish till and like if you could start casting at 5:30 or 5:37 whenever we were able to leave the ramp.
Yeah.
Like I left the ramp every day at the earliest time possible. If you could start casting in, you'd have 15 pounds every morning by like 7 o'clock. It was nuts. It was almost like a shad spawn deal. It was awesome. Like they were freaking. I had a hook. My hook's been in on it. It didn't matter. I had a buzz bait without a hook on it. I had a popper with my hooks bent in because it don't run right if you take the hooks off of it. Mm-hmm. And then I was throwing a popper, and man, it was pretty dumb. Like I had the last day of practice, I had like a 5-pounder just destroy the plopper. I didn't hook it. I shook off like a 6 or 7 on a frog. Like it was stupid. But then the first day of the tournament, I draw. I'm like last flight, second to last flight. So I don't leave until 7 o'clock. And whenever I did, I spun out kind of because I knew like how good of a chance I had of having a good event if I could just get to a couple areas and run through them real quick. I ended up trying to fish too much, too quick, and didn't effectively fish anything, and I screwed it up. I ended up, one of my best areas was kind of by takeoff for the topwater bite, and the boat waves were so bad that I couldn't really throw the topwater. So I picked up a spinnerbait and I caught 2 2.5s right off the rip. And then I went to a stretch of willows that I could catch them on a popper on, but I just didn't, I was so like amped up and just wanting to cover water that I just didn't fish it effectively and kind of ruled. I just spun out a little bit, truthfully. I broke off that big one also super early on the jig. And so I had 2 on the first day, early, 2 nice ones, 2 2.5 pounders. I had 2 for 5 pounds or whatever. And maybe even a little bit more, probably 5.5. And then, so the topwater deal dies, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go run these points. Well, I start running those points that I found in practice, and every day in practice, they were pulling 11,000 all day. First day of the tournament, guess who does not look at the Corps of Engineers website? Me. I didn't. And they dropped the current to 2,000 cubic feet per second until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon after I'd already ran all that stuff. And I could not hardly get a bite on any of that stuff. None of it. Like there was no current flow. The fish weren't set up and I couldn't hardly get bit. I ended up just scratching out 3 more keepers on a shaky head with a little Strike King shaky head. And that gave me my limit for 9 pounds and change on the first day. And I'm really scratching my head. I'm wondering where all those fish went. And then I got to the weigh-in and Colin Crawford, me and him were talking. He's like, yeah, they didn't pull water today. I'm like, that explains it. It just goes to show like how things change and you have to adjust with them. And I let that slip up on me and kind of as many tournaments I fished, all of that, I still let the day kind of get me because I ran practice history, and instead of like cutting that, like I should have just made some adjustments because it was sunny. I knew there was fish on docks. And I knew that, like, if all else fails, I can go run a few docks and catch a decent limit. And I should have, especially on the first day before they got hit. And I was so bound and determined I'm going to catch them off these points whenever they weren't even on the daggum points that, it cost me dearly. Second day of the tournament, just to keep it short, I go straight to those willow trees that have water on them. I slowed down with that top water. I caught 2 really nice ones. I had 2 for probably like, I don't know, 6 pounds or something, 2 for 5 3/4, whatever, same story. But instead, knowing that the bite was really tough, I just focused on high percentage areas, and I really just fished a lot more efficiently mentally throughout the day. And I, caught 11.5 pounds or whatever it is I caught. I lost like a 4.5 pounder, 4.5 to 5 pounder on a Strike King Series 5 crankbait. Just jumped, threw it off. Wasn't nothing I could do about that. And then I had another like 5 pounder in my hands on a spinnerbait that I let get away from me. And
oh my God, dude, that's a hell of a 46th place finish. Based on what happened, an absolutely insanely good 46th place finish.
It was, and it was, and you've got to take that into perspective, man. I think that, and that's something that a lot of guys miss. Like, man, like 46th place for me in that event was a great event, I fished a way to stay away from people. I wasn't in crowds. I fished the way I wanted to. I had the opportunities to have a top 10, but in fishing, as we all know, it does not always go your way. But you can't let it spin you out and ruin the whole tournament or the whole season. I think the most important thing that I say all the time is you don't let a bad moment turn into a bad day. You don't let a bad day turn into a bad tournament. You don't let a bad tournament turn into a bad year. And at any one of those moments, whenever things went bad in this Eufaula event, I could have let that turn into a bad tournament, which could have snowballed into a bad year. So I think it's so important to keep things like that into perspective and know that, like, man, you've got to trust the process. If you go out there and you put in the work and you work your tail off from the beginning of practice to the end of practice, you have prepared yourself to the best of your daggum ability. You go out there and you believe in that, and you make the adjustments based off of that, and you're inevitably going to. But you build off of that and you get a little bit better, because if you look.
Let's see if he says. Yeah. Oh no. We got the dreaded we'll see if he settles down here. We got the you back? I think you're back.
I'm back.
You're frozen. You were frozen for a second. We got most of that. You went a little bit like techno on us there for a second, but I think we got 99% of it. Oh, now he's frozen again. He won't unmute. We do have to take a final break of the show, though. So we're going to take the final break, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up with Dakota Ebare. It's BTL. On a Monday, we'll be back right after this.
Omnia Pro gives you the confidence to eliminate dead water on thousands of lakes across the U.S. Exclusively through Omnia, utilize our map layers containing critical real-time satellite information to see water temperature, water clarity, and important weather data all in one place, along with 1-foot contours for Navionics and detailed CMAP social mapping. Matched with Omnia's industry-leading loyalty credit program on all your tackle and gear needs, this is the only app you need in your arsenal for success on the water.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, we're back. We got Dakota Ebare back. I don't know how we've managed to do this, but every time we've needed to take a commercial break is when you've frozen up. So I've just seamlessly gone to the commercial break, and it's just been like magic.
Perfect.
Very excited. But yeah, no, very impressive finish there at Eufaula. It's a tough fishery. A lot of guys struggled there, and another point shakeup. So
Yeah, I figured that one would kind of shake up the point some, no doubt. And I'm a little disappointed in myself as a whole for not taking advantage of that. If I can catch one of those big ones, I'm well in the lead for AOI. So, but hey, it all worked out. But those are the opportunities that I feel like you have to capitalize on to win Angler of the Year titles. So, but anyways, we still got a shot, so we're gonna keep working.
Headed up north, we got St. Clair, Leech Lake, Wisconsin, and Lake Hartwell left. Sounds like you're just, I don't need you to even walk through that, because it sounds like, based on the first part of the interview, you're taking it 1 week at a time. You're not going to overthink stuff. You're not going to get caught up in where you are in the points. You're going to fish the conditions and the best of your ability each week. Let the points shake out where they may, and hopefully at the end you're number one. And if you're not, you're in the top 10 and you're headed to the Elite Series.
That's it. That's it. I can't say any better.
I listen occasionally.
That's the plan, man. No, really. It's easier said than done, though, man. We got a lot of work ahead of us, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to talk about where you're sitting at now and all that. But look, man, I tell everybody the same thing. Hey, look, we're taking it one day at a time. One day at a time. From practice, first day of practice on St. Clair, to the first day of tournament and on. So, if I do my job each and every day to the best of my abilities, if it's meant to be, then I'll be there.
But, dude, St. Clair is going to be fun.
St. Clair is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge, essentially, with the wind and everything. 5 days of practice. Lake could fish kind of small. But it gives a guy an opportunity to go find something on his own, too. So, I don't know. Yeah, St. Clair. So, St. Clair last year cost me an Angler of the Year title in the Bass Pro Tour. So, I had some mechanical issues. And if I just catch a lemon on day 2 at St. Clair, I make the knockout round. I win Angler of the Year by a long shot. But instead, some things went wrong and it didn't happen for me there. So St. Clair owes me.
Well, payback. I'm trying to find like an extended forecast. Here's 14 days extended forecast. And I just
windy.
did it.
I've already did it. It's windy.
Oh my, no, don't do that to us.
10 to 20 every day.
Don't do that to us. What? It's
like
nice. And then Saturday, 15, 12, 14, 14, 8, 10.
Yep.
It breaks my heart, Dakota.
It ain't going to just break your heart.
It'll break everything. Should I do the spot? I got the Beat Down Outdoors Ultimate Shorty Double Stack. I don't have to worry about anything, and I'm running that brand new Bass Cat Puma. That thing's built solid as a rock, and I trust that Mercury. So
I've got my stuff ready to go, man. I feel like we're all running good equipment now, man. Whether it's different brands or whatever, that's the good thing about it. We're a lot further along right now for this stuff than we were a few years ago. Some great products out there, so make sure you're using some of them, especially if you're going to go up north. Because I tell people all the time, that's the biggest thing about being up there is the fishing is not that difficult, but keeping your equipment together is the toughest thing. And if you're not prepared for it and you don't have the right stuff, man, you could really end up in a dangerous situation and a very unpleasant situation. So make sure you got your stuff taken care of before you go up there and enjoy that smallmouth deal.
All right, I'm going to let you get back on the road. I appreciate you taking time out of this, and I'll see you in Detroit, the Motor City, Motown.
Looking forward to it, man. See you there.
See you, Dakota.
See you.
All right, Dakota Ebare. Well said. That dude knows what's up, and like I said, he catches them everywhere he goes. And a perfect example, especially after hearing how that Lake Eufaula went. I mean, he had every single reason. He fished the Invitational there last year, the one that Kelly Jordan won, and it was drastically different conditions. And it would be real easy to go in with preconceived notions based on how that fish there with water clarity and water levels, and to come back with a totally different fishery with dropping water. With muddy water, especially with a Toyota a couple weeks before, and then put together a game plan and overcome 10 to 12 pounds of lost fish and still come out of it with the top 50 is why you've seen guys who know how to get the job done. He mentioned a professional day on the water. That's why you've seen, like the Jason Christie's and Ikes and Hackneys and like the guys who went into the opens, who know how to get it done, who know how to overcome the obstacles, that mental fortitude. Like, listen, I'm fifth year in the opens, and I'm still learning. I still enjoy it. I look at it as part of my entire portfolio for making a career in this industry. But there are certain guys who just have that next level, that ability to make it happen when it happens, and not to look at something and say, that's the reason why I didn't do good. Like I jumped off like almost a 3-pounder that would have gotten me a check, but I think it's easy to look at what Dakota could have had in that event. Like he could have been in the top 10, but he was also getting enough bites to overcome a lost 4, a lost 5, and a lost 3 over those 2 days and still finish in the top 50. Whereas if he had just been getting 5 bites, that's the difference between, damn, I should have finished 48th and he ended up finishing 150th. Instead, he should have finished in the top 10 and he finished 48th. It's those 1 or 2 key bites that some of those guys that are at the top of their game just seem to be able to manufacture to make the right decisions when it comes down to it. So that's all we got for today. Tomorrow, a really cool show. I recorded it. Fred Rambanis on the water with his son. And there may be some fish catches that are involved from Minnesota, but we will talk to everybody then. Until then, we'll talk to everyone later. See ya.